previously on Jeremy's channel. So the next episode is called Lucky Day. It's already giving me weird vibes because it's like the boyfriend is jealous of the doctor and what the doctor means to Ruby Sunday.
Let's just get this over with.
Hello YouTube, my name is Jeremy Chandia, and if you've never seen my face before, I basically just make videos of whatever's on my mind week after week. And this week we're going to be reacting to the 4th episode of the 2nd season of Doctor Who. It's called Lucky Day. This one, I feel it's not going to be as long as the rest of the videos because I'll be super honest, I didn't love the episode, but not for the reasons you think. I did love the topic they chose and how they went about it. It's just, I don't really love what they call Doctor Light videos, which is basically like episodes where the doctor's barely in it. I know it's kind of opposite of what I've said before because I've said I like companion-led episodes, but for some reason I wasn't feeling this one. But it could be because of Ruby Sunday. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm not a Ruby Sunday hater. Something about her character didn't click with me, so it's just kind of, it feels weird to see her. She's not terrible, and she has like an interesting story behind her, and she's had good episodes before, but I don't know. She feels like out of place for me. I don't know how to explain it, honestly. Anyways, you probably know the drill by now. I'll talk about the episode kind of on a general sense, and then I'll go into more detail into like more spoily stuff, kind of get an idea of what we saw. So from the trailer, I liked that the trailer was kind of misleading. So I won't say what the episode was about, but I will say that the trailer shows you one thing and then the episode is a complete other thing. So basically the trailer is talking about Ruby Sunday, and she goes like on a podcast kind of thing, and she meets this guy and they start dating, and she finds out that he really is into the doctor and he's like comparing himself to the doctor. That's basically like what the trailer shows. So you kind of get a vibe of, is he jealous or does he like really like the doctor? Which was very confusing. I talked about it on my last video and I thought he was jealous of the doctor like Danny Pink was with Clara. But I guess not. I guess he was just a fan of the doctor and he wanted to be like the doctor. So there's that. And then, like I said, the doctor is barely in it. It's more of a Ruby Sunday adventure. And it's basically they encounter like creatures and stuff. The creatures are called Shriek, which isn't really like a spoiler. Also, I kept reading Shrek because I watch it with captions. I was like, Shrek. But they encounter creatures and they have to fight the creatures without the doctor, basically. And honestly, that's basically all the trailer talks about. I'll talk about like the characters themselves though. Not the guy though, because that'll be a spoiler. But Ruby Sunday, like I said, she was in the episode. Basically, the episode was about her. It was surrounding her. And basically, like, her love story. We've seen Ruby Sunday try to have relationships before. She had a whole, like, life in 73 Yards. And it's just exploring, like, her life after traveling with the doctor, you know? Which was something I found very interesting. Like, they talk a lot about, like, her PTSD after leaving the doctor. And it was kind of cool to see the companion's life after they leave the TARDIS, which we've seen a couple times before, but we kind of like delved into like the psychological and mental like load of having explored universes and seen all kinds of creatures and stuff, and then just returning to normal life on Earth. Sounds so serious, and like this is like groundbreaking philosophical conversation, but it's a show about aliens. But yeah, that part was interesting, and seeing the long-term effects of the doctor also like in society, not just like Ruby Sunday, but like because obviously in this reality people have accepted that aliens are real, and that's something that I feel like us as the people who we are today, I don't see how that would like happen. How it would be just cool with aliens existing and that they could attack us at any moment. Honestly, there's not a lot to say about the episode without going into spoilers because it is pretty much a plot twist after a plot twist, and it starts from like mid-episode onward, so I don't want to spoil it for anyone who wants to watch it. I will say it was a pretty controversial episode. I was fully expecting to go see like the reviews afterwards and see like word salads of like people who were angry at what they're showing, but I really like the Doctor Who took the chance to be this controversial. It's kind of like with the incel thing, that's the kind of vibe, you know, with Robot Revolution. I mean, with the incels, I was expecting like all the incels to come out of the woodwork and like riot Doctor Who. That's another community of that kind of people. I was expecting to come out and be like, this is the worst episode, this is insulting, how dare you do this, blah, 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 blah. So, but I was surprised to see, at least on the app that I use to monitor like what I'm watching and see like the reactions of people were pretty like positive about this episode, and I feel like they kind of thought the same way I did. They were like, I like that they touched on the subject and what's happening and how it's becoming our reality, because it is something that's happening currently in our reality. I know I'm being very vague, but I don't want to spoil it because it is a really good episode. Although if you are going to watch the rest of the video, you're going to be spoiled anyway. So, but just know that it's something that's currently going on and that it's really dividing the world, basically. Like I said, the Doctor was barely in it. He was in the beginning with Belinda, and then he was towards the end by himself. So there's not a lot to say about him. I will say though, I'll talk about like Ruby's outfit. She wears the same like pantsuit combo. Well, not pantsuit because it's like a vest and like pants. And it was very reminiscent of like the Doctor's outfits. And I think she wears it like 3 times. Like, characters reusing clothes. Who would have thought? But it is very much, I felt reminiscent of the Doctor and what he wore specifically in the music episode, where he wears like the suit, the full suit with the pinstripe. I think it's called pinstripe suit. And she wears like a vest with pants with pinstripes. We did get a shot of both of Ruby's moms, the adoptive one and the biological mom, and we got a shot of the grandma, which is my favorite family member in Ruby Sunday's circle. I love the grandma, and she was really funny too because she was looking up the guy that Ruby was going on a date with. His name's Connor. What's his last name? It's Connor. I don't remember his last name, but it's Connor. And he was looking him up on like Instagram to see him. And the mom goes, "Oh, if you scroll down to the 5th post, he's shirtless." And Ruby's like, "Mom." And mom's like, "Don't pretend you didn't look." So that was funny. And I thought it was really cute that the biological mom is now part of the story. She's now become part of Ruby's life, and I thought that was a really cute consequence of like the whole first season. Of course, we get a Mrs. Flood appearance towards the end, but I'll talk about that in the spoiler section because it is a pretty big spoiler. They still haven't said who she is. She does name herself something, but it means nothing. It's just a title, so the mystery continues, I guess. I am excited about next episode. It looks interesting. It's called, I'll tell you right now because I didn't prepare for that. So the next episode is called The Story and the Engine. They showed the trailer at the end like they always do, and it looks interesting. Obviously in a different planet with a different culture, and that's really cool. And there's like a monster that's like looming outside basically. So I'm excited to see what that's about. Oh, wait, I haven't given this episode a rating. If I had to rate this episode, I would give it maybe like a 6 out of 10. Again, not because of the topic. The topic I really liked, and I really liked that they talked about it and showed the effects of this happening. I just, like I said, it doesn't click for me with Ruby, and I just found it kind of like boring most of the time. Not most of the time, sometimes at some parts, especially towards the beginning. Like it was like a it's like a romance episode, the beginning, and I was like, okay, well, okay. But yeah, anyway, let's start with the spoily part and talk about the episode itself. So like I mentioned, this is the 4th episode in the season. This is the first one with barely any doctor in it. It's a Ruby Sunday adventure, like I mentioned before. And so the episode does start with the doctor landing in London. And Belinda at first is kind of hopeful that they landed where they're supposed to be because obviously it's London. But no, they landed in London in 2007, I believe, in New Year's Day. And they take out the Vindicator and everything, and they take their Vindicator reading. And they notice that there's a little boy watching them. So the little boy saw like the TARDIS land and them come out of the TARDIS and put the Vindicator on. And so the boy's like just standing there kind of shocked because who wouldn't be when a blue box just kind of appears out of nowhere. And the doctor and Belinda were kind of talking, and the doctor found a 50p on the floor, so he grabbed it and he's like, see, it's our lucky day. Roll credits. And he's trying to make Belinda laugh and like not lose hope again, because she's tired at this point of not getting home. But they see the kid, and the doctor introduces himself. He says, I'm the doctor, and this is Belinda Chandra. And I don't know why he says her full government name. And they kind of ask him, hey, this is going to sound weird, but what year is it? And he doesn't answer. And then they're like, are we in the 2020s, 2025? And he's like, no, it's 2007. And obviously they're like, okay, well, we're not home then. And they resort to like leaving. And so the doctor gives like the 50p to the kid, which is important later on. And the kid, which for some reason was really funny to me, the kid kind of grabs the 50p and runs away as if he's stealing the coin. But the doctor is giving it to you, so I don't understand why you have to run away like a thief. But the kid runs over to his mom, who's in the crowd, and he kind of tells her what went on. He said, there's a guy in a blue box, and it appeared out of nowhere, and then it disappeared. Well, he didn't see it disappear, but you know what I mean. And basically the mom calls him a liar, and it's just like a terrible mom, honestly. She calls him like a liar and tells him to like leave her alone because she's like enjoying the fireworks or something with like a guy who's not the dad, I suppose. The kid kind of like is disappointed, but that's really where it stops for him. But then it cuts to present day, or like 2024, I guess. I don't remember the year, but it's a year before he sees the blue box again. And I don't remember the year, but he sees the blue box again. And he sees it outside like a closed store, like the back of a closed store. And so he goes into the store to investigate, obviously, because he needs to know. And when he gets inside, he sees mannequins, which very reminiscent of the first episode of Rose Tyler with Eccleston. She works in like a shop, and so the mannequins come to life. They don't come to life. It's an alien race that's made of plastic, but it's with mannequins, and it just really reminded me of that episode. Maybe it's a callback or not. But he's surrounded by mannequins, and he hears like rustling, and he kind of looks around and he doesn't see anything. And then he gets like attacked. He doesn't see them. And then he looks up to where more noise is, and he notices as well that he has like a green like sludge on him, and from where he was attacked. And he looks up, and up the escalator the doctor is with Ruby. So this is a Dr. Ruby adventure, and he sees like the creature that kind of attacked him. But I thought it was like another creature because I didn't think he went all the way up there. I thought it was like maybe two that were like divided, like two creatures of the same family, which is the Shriek. And it's up there. The Shriek is up there, and it gets captured by the doctor and Ruby Sunday. They come down, and Ruby is also has sludge on her because she was also attacked. It's not really attacked. I feel like the doctor describes it as vomit. They got like vomited on, basically. And the doctor explains that it's basically how the Shriek mark them so they can be hunted later on. And the doctor has an antidote so she can take it and not be hunted. basically. And so she takes the antidote and everything, and that's where they kind of establish who they are. And they leave the store, and it kind of cuts away again to a year later, where Connor, is that his name? I already forgot his name. Let me double check. I've been calling him Connor. His name's Conrad. It's Conrad. So Conrad, they cut to the future, like a year later, and he has a podcast now, which was honestly a red flag, because like men in podcasts, I don't know, not even men only, like too many people have access to microphones now. I say as I talk into a microphone. I understand the irony, but I don't have a podcast, I have a video. Anyway, he has like a podcast that's based entirely on the Doctor and finding the Doctor and knowing more about him and knowing more about UNIT. And this was really confusing to me because I thought UNIT was like a secret organization, but he knows about UNIT and he's talking about it publicly. I feel like if it was a secret organization, they would have cut that sooner, I guess. But maybe by this point, UNIT is world known. And they're just known as like the protectors of Earth against aliens. Maybe I missed something, which is totally possible. Again, I miss a lot of stuff. But he has his podcast, and he announces that he, for the first time, is going to talk to someone who's actually been in the TARDIS, which is Ruby Sunday. And so Ruby Sunday goes, and he kind of asks like basic stuff, like, where have you been? What have you done with the Doctor? What do you do like in the TARDIS? And obviously she doesn't say everything. She can't say everything that she's done because it is top secret. And he asks about UNIT, and she says, obviously I can't tell you about that. And he goes, hey, yeah, of course. And he spills his coffee, and it's like a cute moment or whatever. And after the podcast, he kind of explains, like, I've been looking for the Doctor for a while, and I've been learning about him. And he asks her to go to like a lunch with him. So like asks her out, I guess. And I don't know if that's like an asking her out kind of thing. I think he just wanted to continue talking. And so they go out to lunch and they keep talking, and he explains that he has this coin that he got from the Doctor and he's been looking for him. And I don't quite remember. I think they talk about the first time that he saw her with the Shriek, and that he was like attacked too, and she explains that there's this antidote or whatever, and gives him like the antidote so he can take it as well. And she tells him to take it right when he's going to sleep because it knocks you out for 8 hours basically. And he says okay, and he pockets it, and they keep talking, and then he officially like asks her out and asks her to like go to dinner with him or whatever. That's when we see the mom and the grandma, and they're like, the adoptive mom is taking pictures, and she's like, what are you doing? I think her name's Carla, right? Carla takes pictures of her, and he's like, Mom, you're being ridiculous, I'm just going on a date. And the grandma's like looking him up on Instagram. Yeah, they go on a date, and the mom and the grandma and the bio mom are trying to see if she'll like let go of the Doctor, to kind of, because they've seen that she's been kind of consumed by her memories of the Doctor and like being left behind and whatever, although she chose to stay behind, but she just hasn't been able to let it go, you know? So they're concerned about her because obviously they're family. And they've noticed, because they go on the date and they talk, and it's more like cutesy or whatever, and they have a kiss or whatever. And he tells her about like his past and whatever. They just like normal date conversations, really. But they decide to keep going, basically. And they skip over to like where it's their 5th date now, and they're going away for the weekend. And that's when Carla, the grandma, and the bio mom are all like together, and they're talking about, she hasn't mentioned the Doctor in a while, and that's good. And I feel like she's moving on. And so they're going on the trip. She even has like a picture of her and Conrad on like the fridge, and it seems like serious. So they're just really excited for her. But also, I found it really strange that she's going away on like a 5th date. I feel like that's too soon. I feel like 5 dates is not long enough to go away for a weekend with someone. You don't know if they're a serial killer yet, but sure, whatever. Oh, I did forget something. On the lunch date, Ruby is talking about the shriek because they talked about when they both like saw the shriek, and she talks about how they're coming. And so she talks about how the lights start to flicker and you hear them before you see them and that kind of stuff. And so that's important for later on. So we skip to when they went away for the weekend, and it's basically just like Ruby meeting Conrad's friends. And when they get to the bus stop, Ruby calls him her boyfriend, but she notices that in the bus stop, the lights kind of flicker. Like the sign that says where you're going and when the next train is coming, it kind of flickers or glitches, I guess, because it didn't really flicker. It just like changed the letters. At this point, I was like, I'll be honest, I was pretty bored because I was like, I don't really care about this relationship, which is the same thing I felt with Clara when she started dating Danny Pink. I did hate Danny Pink. So it could have been that. But I also like find it boring because like I was like, I don't care about this. I want adventure. That's why I'm watching this show. But it is the turning point. So the lights start flickering, and obviously as a fan, I was like, okay, something's gonna happen finally. But they get to the city. I don't even know where they are. They're just like away, and they go to like a pub with like Conrad's friends, and they meet Ruby and whatever. And one of them goes like outside or to the bathroom, I guess, and they keep talking and they go get beers. Like her and another girl go get some beers in like the bartending area. You can really tell I go to bars. They go to like the tap or something. I don't know what it's called. And they ask the bartender for drinks. And the lights start to flicker. And Ruby at this point had already called like Unit. She was like, listen, I'm really weirded out. I am really like worried that they're back. And we get a shot of Kate, Queen Kate, with one of the soldiers that's already appeared. My husband said he was dead before, but I couldn't remember if he was the one that had died in the episode where we learn about Ruby Sunday's past. I couldn't remember if it was him or not, but he's back. And she basically says, listen, we have the shriek contained and it's here, so I don't see how it would be over there. Maybe you're being like a little, and Ruby says paranoid, and she's like, no, like observant, like more observant than you usually would be, just because of what you've been through with the doctor, and it's normal, but just kind of like try to enjoy yourselves or whatever. And so she goes back inside and the lights flicker, like I said, but they completely shut off, and they hear like the noises, like the shriek noises, and she looks outside and they see a shriek. They see two, in fact. And so she calls Unit again, and she's like, they're here, they're in this like city, and I need you to get here ASAP, basically. And they have cameras everywhere because Unit is kind of like a big brother kind of thing. They do say that they're not getting signals of shriek, but they'll go anyway to kind of check. And when they get there, well, before they get there, because she goes outside to kind of handle it herself, because she's been with the doctor and she knows how to handle it. And she tells Conrad to stay inside because she knows how to handle it and he'll just get hurt. Which is when he lets her know that he never took the antidote that she gave him, which I called from the get-go. Like, as soon as she gave him the antidote, I was like, he's not gonna drink that. He wants to meet the doctor. He's not gonna ruin any chances that he might get to like meet him, you know? So I supposed he was not gonna drink it, and he didn't drink the antidote. So Ruby told him to stay inside because now they're coming for him. And he was like, this is all my fault, I'm so sorry. And she says, yeah, but you should stay inside because as soon as you go out there, they're gonna basically rip you piece for piece and then destroy the city because they're not just gonna leave. So just stay here and I'll try to like handle it. So she goes outside by herself to try to attack the monsters. I don't know what her plan was. But then she finds out that Conrad followed her, and she's like, what are you doing here? And he said, I have this coin. Like, I need to be as brave as the doctor or whatever. And she's like, okay, whatever. And they see one in a distance, and they're both like terrified or whatever. And Unit gets there and kind of surrounds them, and they see the two creatures. Ruby notices that they don't look like Shriek. They kind of look like costumes. And so the two Shriek kind of like stand up and take their masks off, and it's two of Conrad's friends. One of them that they were thought to be dead because the Shriek got him. And so the friends turn to Conrad and they ask him, did we get the shot? And that was a very much like Hans from Frozen telling Anna, oh Anna, if only there was someone out there who loved you moment for me, because Conrad said, yeah, we got it. And so everyone comes out, like the friends come out with like their phones out and they start recording on like TikTok live or whatever. They're like, see, unit lies. This is all like costumes and like special effects. They're lying to you. None of this is real, which makes no sense for so many reasons. Because one, Conrad was already attacked by the Shriek. Two, you would think that by unit responding to an alien attack, that they are protecting the Earth from alien attacks, even if they're not real. So I don't know what they're trying to prove. And three, it's his friends. Like, he showed that it's his friends being fake. So I don't understand why his friends being in costumes means that unit is lying about the aliens being in costumes, you know? But that's the whole point, that lying in social media and doing this whole like misinformation thing doesn't have to make sense. People will just follow it just to follow, you know? And that's where it got really real. A lot of people that I saw in the comments didn't like that aspect, that they come to Doctor Who to kind of like not think about what's going on in the world, and then they get blasted with like this tech bro misinformation podcast guy, which reminds them of what's going on right now. Yeah, that's the whole theme of this episode, is misinformation on the media. And so they keep going and they're live, so it's not like they can just erase it like unit. And so unit gets attacked. They don't get attacked, they get like blasted on the internet and for being liars. And Conrad is part of like a group called Tech Talk. So he's like a tech bro, and which was a red flag. He has a podcast and he's a tech bro. I'm kidding. But basically they get arrested, and obviously they make it like a whole thing, like, oh, they're arresting us, they're surrounding us with guns or whatever, look at them, they're evil. And it's like, they're here with guns to attack the aliens. You told them that we're here. But anyway, they get arrested and it becomes like a media frenzy because of that. They're like, oh, is unit like dangerous? Why are they getting so much funding from the internet? He even like points, before they get arrested, that he points at one of the unit people who is a wheelchair user, and he says, oh, she's stealing our government funds while doing nothing. Like, he's that kind of piece of shit. And not stealing our funds, like using our resources. Like, he's basically saying that she's faking using a wheelchair so she can have like government help. And so they get arrested and there's a media frenzy, and he gets let out for some bullshit reason because of the media, because the media went on his favor. And so it becomes this thing of like unit getting discredited because they think that everything's fake and they're all costumes and they're not really in danger. They're just stealing government funds and then faking like alien attacks or whatever. And which again makes no sense to me, because all of these people have, not all of them, but like most of these people have been attacked by aliens. They've been personally attacked by aliens. And I understand they're being like, it's special effects and it's like costumes or whatever, but people have died and they've been like pulverized right in front of you. There were mannequins who came to life. There were Slitheen that became part of Parliament. There was so much evidence of like alien activity. This is why this is why this episode was so like frustrating, you know, because it is happening and we are seeing it happen every day. Like, it's so easy to misinform people because they'll just go along with it and they'll just fight without like any evidence, without any research. But anyway, come back, Dremmy. So after that, we find out that they basically just like grab Ruby Sunday and take her to a safe house, which is just the unit tower, because she's in danger, because Conrad leaked the information of every single unit employee. So he doxed them. Like, he doxed all of them, which it's illegal here. in the US. I don't know if it's illegal in the UK, but obviously nothing happens to him. So they take her to the unit tower just to keep her safe. And while they're there, they kind of like, they wanted to move the Shriek to a safer location because they don't want people to come here and like basically like shut down the tower and like release all the creatures that they have in their custody. And the Shriek is one of the more dangerous ones. They have the Shriek on like the helipad ready to like be transported. And while they're doing that though, Conrad breaks into the tower with the help of Justin Lang, I think his name was. I don't know, Justin Lang. He's not important. He's not super important. But he was like one of the people who went to like the first attack in like the town. And now he's over there in the tower and he helps Conrad come into the building. And they find out that he's a double agent, I guess, which one of the comments on the app that I use, it's called TV Time, by the way. If you haven't checked it out, TV Time is really good. I'm not sponsored by anybody. But TV Time is basically an app where you can kind of mark your progress in a show and basically mark down like all the episodes that you've watched. And I personally like it because it's fans of the shows, obviously. So you mark the episode and then you can see the comments of like what people think about the episode and everything. You get like fan theories and you get like conspiracies and who is this and where have I seen her before. And it's really cool because they point out like stuff that you might have missed. So that's really cool. One of the comments even mentioned that in the podcast scene, he has like newspapers behind him and one of them talks about the Slitheen taking over Parliament. So that was really cool. But coming back to what I was talking about, someone pointed out that they didn't really understand how Justin even got to where he was because UNIT is known for being very secretive and very meticulous when it came to like their research and stuff. So how they wouldn't notice his background search, like with his background research that they did there, they discovered like 1,000 like podcasts that he followed and fake names and fake accounts, and how they didn't discover that beforehand was kind of weird. And so I agree with that, like how Justin even got that far, but I guess he had his tricks. There's moles everywhere, so they know what they're doing, I guess. And they also discovered that Conrad at some point did apply to work at UNIT 5 years prior, and that he obviously didn't get the job, and it was a good thing he didn't because he's a piece of shit. But he eventually makes it up to where they all are and he grabs a gun. So basically he comes in through like a back door through which Justin lets him in, and he incapacitates like a soldier that's there, and he grabs the gun from the soldier, and Justin's like, why are you grabbing a gun? We're just gonna videotape now. And that's where Justin finds out that he might have made a mistake, and so Justin gets shot. Wow, wow. R.I.P. Sorry for being on the wrong side. But Conrad makes it all the way up with the gun, and he kind of threatens them all, basically. And he is recording with a GoPro or whatever it's called on his chest, because of course he is. He needs content. He's monetizing misinformation. And so he threatens everybody up in the room, and he points out, see, they're all pointing guns at me, and I'm just one person, and they're like 7. And my husband went, yeah, but you're with a gun. You have a gun pointed at them. You're a threat. But obviously, they're not going to see the gun. They're going to see that he's just standing there, and people are pointing guns at him. And so he basically just goes on his rant of like, this is special effects, this is like costumes, you're lying to the people or whatever. And Kate kind of loses it because he does talk shit about absolutely everything, including her father, which, how dare you talk about her father? If you don't know, her father was a character in Classic Who. He was called the Brigadier, I think he's called. And he was one of the companions to the original Doctor. And then I'm pretty sure he created UNIT, and then Kate got it when he like died. There's a word for that, but my words are terrible today, so I can't think of it. And so Kate tells him, I do remember that because she didn't remember that he applied for the job, and I guess he was like very offended over that because I guess he thinks he's the only one who's ever applied to a job there. And that's where like Ruby kind of starts to understand he's just like an angry little boy that is just taking revenge because they never gave him a job, you know? But Kate says, I do remember now your interview, and I just wrote 4 words when you were gone. I wrote, don't trust him. That's 3 words. I know math. She wrote down 3 words saying, don't trust him, for good reason, as we can see. But Ruby kind of goes to them and you're like, you're just a sad little boy who never got love. Like, why are you doing this? What goal do you have here other than like money and creating hysteria? And he keeps like digging at her. He's like, it was torturous to date you and kiss you and yuck, which is not what we're talking about for sure. Also, he's doing that to hurt Ruby when Ruby clearly doesn't care anymore about that. And then Kate kind of goes like, fine, you want evidence? Let's open the cage where the Shriek is, because he never took the antidote. So the Shriek is gonna attack him. And she kind of loses it a little bit, which honestly, it's kind of deserved. Was it extreme? Absolutely. But he's not gonna believe it otherwise. So they open the cage and they kind of just let the Shriek do its thing. Obviously, they're all like concerned and they're like, Kate, that's enough. Or Kate, what if we're all in danger? And she's like, the Shriek only wants him. If he needs to learn his lesson, like, just let it happen. Finally, he gets confronted with the Shriek, and the Shriek gets closer and closer and closer when he's about to like kill him or whatever. And Kate's like, do you believe us now? What's going on? Like, why do you keep lying? And he finally says like, okay, I believe you. Please stop. Please help me, because he's about to die. And so Ruby grabs like a little like taser, but it's like a super powered taser, and tases the Shriek. And the Shriek falls to the side, incapacitated. And Conrad stands up. You know what the says? Conrad stands up and he says, your special effects are getting better. But then he gets bitten by the Shriek, who is now conscious again. And he bites his arm off. So, there you go. Sweet justice. Anyway, they contain the Shriek again, and we cut over to a cell block, where a jail cell where Conrad is now with his newly attached arm, because he lost his arm for being a stupid ass. And he's in his jail cell, and he hears the TARDIS outside, but somehow he's transported inside the TARDIS. Not somehow, we all know. He just materialized the TARDIS around him. And, which I was against. Like, don't give him the privilege of knowing this when he's been this delusional this whole time. But the Doctor gets him in the TARDIS, and he's like, you know, you can only get on the TARDIS by invitation only if you're really special. And you are special, but for all the wrong reasons, Conrad. And obviously Conrad's being like a wise ass. He's being like, oh, this is like an illusion. Like, this is a trick of the eye or whatever. And the Doctor makes a very good speech here. Like, I highly recommend you watching the speech because it's really good. I think someone wrote it down. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. You have to be invited into my TARDIS, Conrad, to be special. But you're special for all the wrong reasons. You see, I am fighting a battle on behalf of everyday people who just want to get through their day and feel safe and warm and fed. And then along comes this noise all day long, this relentless noise. Cowards like you, weaponizing lies, taking people's insecurities and fear and making it currency. You're exhausting. You stamp on the truth, choke our bandwidth, and shred our patience. Because the only strategy you have is to tear us down. But the thing is, Conrad, I have the energy to burn and all the time in the universe. And I thought that was really good. He also says that Conrad's not going to be remembered for this. Like, he thinks he's like leaving like a giant legacy, but the Doctor's like, we've been through this before. We're going to go through it again, and the future's going to be better without you. And if you want to know how you die, you're going to die in a jail cell at 40 when your heart gives out. So you're not like doing this big thing. And he says, you aren't even a footnote, just ashes in the wind. So he's basically saying, like, you're not important like you think you are. And the work you're doing is not going to impact the way you're thinking it's going to impact. Because people will always stand up for each other and will try to protect each other, you know? And so I thought that was really good. And it was really chilling because we've been used to this Ncuti that's like carefree and like la la la, happy, happy, giggle, giggle. And he got really scary in that part. Like, he got really menacing and in Conrad's face. And I loved it. Very reminiscent of like Eccleston being angry, or like Peter Capaldi being angry. And even David Tennant when he confronted like the Spider family on like the Donna getting married episode. He got really scary in that episode, and I really like that when the doctor like snaps, and you can kind of see that he's human. He's not like a perfect hero. And at the end, Conrad kept being an ass, like he learned nothing from this. So he's like, yeah, sure, whatever you say. And so the doctor's like, okay, I give up. You do you. I'm gonna keep fighting against people like you. So, and he leaves him in his jail cell. And honestly, Conrad's face is unchanged. Like you can tell he learned no lessons. And this will not affect him in a good way. But then the most frustrating thing happens, because he's in the jail cell and Mrs. Flood appears and she says she's the governor. And today's your lucky day. And she has the keys to his jail cell. That's where the episode ends. Honestly, I'm more angry than I am happy about this episode. I didn't even want to make this video because the episode was so frustrating to me. That's why I gave it like a 6 out of 10. I like the topic that they talked about. Like I said, I liked that they dared to do it because I could already tell that all the fanboys, tech bros, podcast bros were gonna be like, this is so insulting and this is like propaganda and whatever. They were gonna feel attacked. I mean, if the shoe fits, I'm just saying. But I like that they dared to do it because people have been complaining about Shruti's doctor for a million reasons. Like every episode there's complaints about something, that they're being too woke or whatever. And so I feel like this was like a punch in their face and they'll be like, you want woke? We'll be woke. This is our woke episode. And I like that. It was just more frustrating than enjoyable at one point. Like it kept going and I was just getting more and more anxious and more stressed. And like I said, like the comments said that I agreed with, it just reminded me of real life. And I was like, I don't want to think about this. Like, I don't want to be reminded about what's going on in the world right now. I want to watch my silly little man in his silly little blue box traveling across space and time, you know? It's just a lot. Like I say in every video, Mrs. Flood, honestly, at one point I was on her side. I just wanted to know who she was because it looks like she wanted to help the doctor. But this one, I have beef with her now. I have genuine beef with her. Why are you letting Conrad go? I need to finish this video because I'm gonna get angry. But anyway, I'm more excited about the next episode. I hope it's a little bit better. I'm not saying this episode was bad. Like, obviously, it was there to create emotions and like get us talking about what's going on in the world and kind of like open our eyes to what's going on. My husband personally liked it. It's still not better than the last episode though. The last episode was amazing. My favorite episode so far. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm like, my soul is dead now. I'll just finish the video here. Thank you for watching. But that's it for the video this week. I hope you liked it, and I'm sorry it was kind of a downer episode this week. Hopefully next episode is a bit better. The trailer looks interesting. We get Belinda again. I need Belinda back in my life because I didn't have enough Belinda in this episode and it all went wrong. I'm just saying we need Belinda. I have higher hopes for the next episode, so I can forget about this one. Just scratch this one off my brain. So we'll be talking about that one next time. Hope you liked. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to find out about my next video being uploaded. I usually upload every Sunday, which has nothing to do with Ruby Sunday, even though that's funny. Just tune in every Sunday. Sometimes I do take a little bit, so maybe tune in every Monday. But I'll see you next time, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.